Hey guys, welcome to the 15th C# tutorial that I'm making for the new Boston. And in this tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to use the try, catch, and finally statements. So basically what the catch does, it will catch an error. So if there's an error with your code, instead of your application crashing, it's just going to catch that error so that your application doesn't crash. So all you're going to need for this tutorial is a button and some sort of code that gives an error. And basically what we're doing right here is just creating a new string array. And inside of our string array, we have two strings, so 1 and 2. And we're trying to access string at the index of 2. And since computers start counting at 0, we go 0, and then 1, and wait, there is no string at the index of 2. So it's going to throw an error saying it's not there. So when we debug here and click our button, we should get an error and our application will crash. Yep, it says the index is outside the bounds of the array. And that just basically means that you're trying to access an element or a string that's not inside of our array. So I'm just going to stop debugging here, just click F6, and yes, I want to stop debugging. Alright, so instead of having our application crash, what if we don't want that to happen? That's not good. So we're just going to put a try around this code right here. And basically what it's going to do is just going to try this code, and if there's an error with it, it's going to look for a catch statement. So we have to have a catch right here, so we're just going to write out catch, and then put 2 curly braces after that. So what it's going to do here is it's just going to try this code, and if there's an error with it, it's going to jump down to this catch statement and do the code inside of here. So instead of the application crashing, it's just going to do the code inside of here. And we're just going to have a message box show saying there was an error. So there was an error. Alright, and again, it will only get to this code if there actually is an error with this code right here. So when we debug, we should get that message box because, of course, there is an error with this code. We're trying to access an element inside of the array that doesn't exist. So yep, we get that message box, there was an error. But if there wasn't an error with our code and we're just trying to access the element at the index of 0, then we're not going to get that message box since there isn't an error. So yeah, there's no error. But what if we want to tell the user exactly what the error was? When we ran our code without the try and catch, we got that nice message saying the index is outside of the bounds of the array, so that we sort of know what the problem is. And to get that message, what you're going to want to do is just put 2 parentheses after the catch. And then inside of here, you're just going to want to write exception and then call it EX. And basically what you're doing right here is creating a new variable, a new exception variable, and you're just calling it EX. And this exception will be equal to the exception that was thrown, or the error that was given. So if we want to get the information about that exception that was thrown, we're just going to want to do EX.message. And that's just basically that message that is displayed when your application crashes. So we got indexes outside of the bounds of the array, and that just basically means that we're trying to access an element that isn't inside of the array. So if I were to just try and access that string at the index of 2, we're going to get an error because it doesn't exist. And we should get indexes outside of the bounds of the array in a message box since we're getting the message of the exception that was thrown. Yep, indexes outside the bounds of the array. Perfect. So that just gives the person using your application sort of an idea of what's going wrong. And if a user was using your application, you could just easily ask them what the problem was, and they could just tell you the message, so you have some sort of an idea of what's wrong with your application. Alright, and lastly, we're going to look at the finally statement. And these go along with try and catch. So if we were to just go right here and type finally, basically what it's going to do is it's going to do this code inside of this finally statement no matter what. So if there's an error with this or not, it's just going to jump down to this finally. So we're just going to have a message box show saying your code is done. So we're just going to say right here, your code is done. And no matter if there's an error or not, we're going to get this message inside of here. So currently there is an error with our code. So it's just going to jump down here to this catch, and we're going to get the exception. And then after that, finally, it's going to give us this message box. Yep, your code is done. And now if we were to change this so that there's not an error, we just try and access the string at the index of 0, then there's no error with this, but it's still going to do this code inside of the finally right here. yep, we get your code is done, even though there wasn't an error. Alright, so that's pretty much it for this tutorial on try, catch, and finally. So, see you guys.